Welcome back, everyone, to Anonymous Addiction Deprogramming Podcast, Deprogramming Everything. I'm Bobby C. I'll be your host. I just did a short. I'm going to be doing this long series. This step one. I'm going to be doing 1 through 12 in the steps, deprogramming all the steps, and deprogramming all the traditions. I probably won't be doing the concepts because they're boring as hell, but I'll get into it. I could do one podcast about the 12 concepts. But this podcast I'm going to call this Deprogramming Step 1, the process of identity theft. It's the beginning of the identity theft into a religious conversion. It's a process. A religious conversion, the process of adopting a new religious belief system or faith, often involving a significant shift in personal identity. That's exactly what step one is all about. To shift our true self, our intuitive self, to take away ourself and create a new identity called an alcoholic with a disease called alcoholism. They got to break that down first. That's the whole goal of step one. And step one is in chapter uh chapter two in the big book and chapter three. That's all step one. It's to get us to calling ourselves alcoholic, how we are powerless, helpless, we must surrender. And of course, when we get to step two, step three, we'll talk more about the other things. But step one is the beginning of the proselytizing conversion, the religious conversion of the members. And I went through so many different scenarios of cognitive dissonance with these steps and with my own belief. I had ambivalence all the time. I really never, tell you the truth, I really never fit in to Alcoholics Anonymous. I really never felt like I belonged there. But I stayed for so many years. Why in the hell? I guess because I wanted companionship. You know, I came in at 1984. We didn't have the internet. I never belonged to anything. So I joined a group and I felt like, hey, in the beginning it was pretty cool, you know, and I did meet some great friends and I had some good times with outside of AA meetings. I had some good times outside of the meetings, living a life with purpose outside the meetings. But yes, step one is a process. Okay. All these steps, like if we'll start out with step one in the big book. Now, the big book, the step book meetings, the 12 and 12 step meetings, uh, any other type of private meetings are Christian Bible studies. That's exactly what they are. These are Bible studies. The big book is AA's Bible. Matter of fact, when I first, my first year or two, I went to a priest. You know, I was born without a religion, and my mother passed on Catholicism, so I became a Catholic. So I went to a Catholic priest, and the Catholic priest told me, Bobby, after I did a fourth and fifth with him. I did a fifth step with him. He said, make the big book your Bible and AA your church. That's what he told me. Years later, he took off his collar, and I can do a whole podcast on that. But that's what he told me. So, in we there is a solution. That's step one. I'll talk on that. And chapter three. more about alcoholism is all step one. It's all the breakdown of our identity. It's a process. That's why it's codified, numbered, in order. It's a process to get to giving our will and our lives over to the care of AA and recruiting others for life. It's a process. So in the big book, in our Bible, AA's Bible, the weird part, it says recovered a couple times. Nearly all have recovered. Well, if we recovered, why do we have to stay in? You know why we have to stay in? Because they tell us we're powerless and no human power could relieve our alcoholism. No human power. So it's a religious conversion to God, to their God. This God, which I know I don't like the word God at all. I don't like the word God because it's been overused, abused, and used to control the human species through religion. So there is a solution. It breaks down a lot of different things. It says stuff like this. The fact is that most alcoholics, for reason yet obscure, has lost the power of choice to drink. Our so-called willpower became practically non-existence. No willpower whatsoever. So it talks about how we have no power, but there is a solution. When therefore we approach by these in whom the problem has been solved, there was nothing left for us but to pick up the simple kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet. Spiritual experience revolutionized our whole attitude. Listen to this. This isn't just there is a solution. This is first step. There is a solution. The central fact of our lives today is that uh, absolute certainty that our Creator has entered into our hearts and lives in a way which is indeed miraculous. This is a miracle. Okay. They talk about spiritual help. Then they talk we honestly wanted to and were willing to make the effort, but we have no free will. We're willing to make the effort, but we have no free will. Well, how does that happen? God does it for us as soon as we walk in. Then it goes into depth with Roland Hazard when Roland met uh, Dr. Jung, Carl Jungian experience, Jungian theory, which he had to be, these psychiatrists, sometimes I think they're crazy. They'll take people's money thousands and thousands of times. They'll make you come back for over and over for years and years and years and take your money. But Roland comes over there. He's wealthy. He's flying over to Europe to meet Carl Jung. And Carl Jung says, you're utterly hopeless because I can't get you sober now. I don't want to take any more money because you're hopeless. That was the great physician's opinion. Okay. Roland never joined AA. Roland Hazard never joined AA. He was the one that got Ebby involved. Ebby never went to Alcoholics Anonymous, and Ebby sponsored Bill. Ebby was pissed off because he was the co-founder of this thing. Ebby, he came and told him exactly what to do from when Bill went to the Oxford group and got all the, everything is borrowed from religion and medical and some philosophy. It's all borrowed. Bill and Bob and Alcoholics, Rockefeller designed this whole pyramid. 1939, that's when it all changed. In the beginning, after 4 or 5 years, only a couple hundred uh, people were in Alcoholics Anonymous. After Rockefeller got involved, he planned this thing to a T. I have never seen one single case recover. This is the doc. This is the great Carl Jung. I have never seen one single case, and this is they have this in the big book, like 3 pages talking about Roland Hazard. He said that only a spiritual experience. To me, these phenomena, huge emotional displacements or rearrangements. What he's talking about, look, we know so much more now from true shadow work, true inventory work, true analysis, self analysis today than Jungian knew back then. Okay. We're smarter than the old psychiatrists. Talk about Freud, you know, we're so advanced today that it's pathetic. Jung was talking about cognitive behavioral therapy when he was talking about emotional displacement and rearrangement. Yeah, and smart recovery came up with a new type of programming, and they found a way. I can get into that, but they found a way to multi-level market it where you can pay to be a sponsor. I pay Smart Recovery and become a facilitator, which I'm a sponsor, a mentor, or facilitator. It was brilliant. Freedom Model's doing it right now, you know. They don't believe in programs, but they have a program and they are coaches and they're training coaches, sponsors, mentors online. I call it the online recovery trap app. I'm not knocking. Look, I'm just telling what I've discovered. I'm, I'm not telling you not to do anything. Check them all out. I think there's a lot of great information there, beautiful information. Keep on checking them out, but it's free. Smart Recovery book, I think, is $15. Yeah, you can get the book and you can self discover it because in this book it says we must self-diagnose ourselves, you know. So it continues. A doctor's judgment utterly hopeless. I have never been successful with an alcoholic of your description. He's talking to Roland, all right? He says, go get a religious conversion. He says you need a religious conversion. That's what he's telling. That's what Jungian's telling Roland. Go to the Oxford group. You have to have a religious conversion. Only a religious conversion, and that's what people send everybody to Alcoholics Anonymous to get is a religious conversion, a revolutionary spiritual experience, the phenomena of a self prophecy to uh, raise your hand and say you're an alcoholic, A, B, and C, that no human power could restore our alcoholism, and C, that God could and would if He were sought. It's all about religion and the God religion. It's not spirituality. It's it's AA's hijacked true spirituality. They've hijacked it and they actually degraded the meaning. I don't even like to use the word spiritual anymore because of people. As soon as I say it, they have this idea of what I believe in. Yeah, and it goes on describing the powerlessness, but then in more about alcoholism, which is still step one. They're getting us to break us down for admitted we are powerless. That's the whole key. We're admitting we are powerless. Our lives are unmanageable, and there's only one cure, one solution, and that is see. God couldn't what if he was saw it. Period. I mean, I could go line by line, page by page, but it'll be so boring. This is the Bible, AA's Bible. There's new Bibles. I mean, we'll get into 16 years later when they wrote the 12 and 12. 16 years later. Because this book is only 146 pages. And it in this in more about alcoholism, they mention alcoholic and alcoholism 50 times, 48 times. Tell me that's through repetition, brainwashing, indoctrination, coercive persuasion, subliminal messaging, osmosis. Rockefeller, they're geniuses. He already hijacked the whole medical industry, the pharmaceutical industry. He already took over all the colleges and universities. He was doing that before he hooked up with uh, Bill and used Bill and Bob as puppets. I got to start getting into Doctor Bob, because his story is really not it's useless. He was just used because he was Doctor Bob, who was a not a really great doctor at all. Doctor Bob, Bill and Bob, Bill Wilson and Doctor Bob. They loved that doctor. Of course, Ebby was Ebby was mad because he wasn't credited for the co-founder. Yeah, he went back out, but Ebby actually started work. He was an assistant director at one of the recovery centers, High Watch, I think it was, recovery centers in Connecticut. They all came from wealthy families. They all Hazard, wealthy money. Abby's family, Bill's family, his brother-in-law, they all come from money, but they all went broke during the stock collapse of the stock market, the Great Depression. Hey, I understand that. We had the 2008 real estate crash. I can relate to that because I was involved with that back then. I know what a crash feels like. So more about alcoholism. Here's where this is step one still. When you're reading this, when you're going to a big book Christian Bible study, you're reading this stuff. They talk about the real alcoholic, the abnormal drinker. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholic. This is the second paragraph. Okay. This is the first step in recovery. See, a lot of people don't realize that chapter 2 and chapter 3 is the first step. It says it right here. This is the first step in recovery. The dilemma that we are like other people or presently may be has to be smashed. Remember the big has to be smashed. And they go like that. Then they go work if it works if you work it, work. No, they got all these goofy. I really never fit in. I didn't. I think I went there more to help other people. I rem I'll do a podcast on how screwed up I got with this religious circle, with this step circle, with this God thing. I'll do one podcast when I'm telling you how screwed up I got, where I was so confused. I went, I was raised a Catholic, right? So I'm going to Christian Bible studies now. I'm going to Christian Bible studies thinking that I could find something there. I want to join a Christian fellowship, okay? Matter of fact, at one point, short point, I was believing I was buying the shit that I may go to hell, right? And I didn't even believe that when I was Catholic. And then ambivalence. This is for a short time, but it was real. And I was hoping my family would get saved because I was believing some of this crap. Cognitive dissonance. It's screwed up. It's real. And I go into there, and what I'm doing in their Bible studies, I'm deprogramming shit while I'm in the Bible study, just like I did in the Big Book Bible studies. When I went to Big Book, when I went to Alcoholics Anonymous step books and Big Book meetings and stuff like that, I was I was highlighting. As you can see, my book is nothing but highlights and writings on the side and definite information. And back then, I didn't have the internet. I had to look up definitions. Yeah, in a dictionary. Getting back to more about alcoholism, step three. I was deprogrammed. I was actually deprogramming this shit. I was like, I'm in, but you know what? I am unique. I'm not the same. I'm not. They say we're all the same. You're not unique, Bobby, but I felt unique. I felt like I had this insight and this wisdom all along, and it's always been inside of me. I had this intuitive self. I had this awakening way, way years ago. I didn't like to conform. I didn't like authority. I didn't like to consent. When I was young, I could go into some to 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 witness it. I got some stuff that's personal. I don't want to talk about it, but uh yeah, over and over it repeats alcoholic, real alcoholic, alcoholic. Over any considerable period, we get worse, never better. This is the first page of more about alcoholism. Remember, this is still the first step. Alcoholic, alcoholic. We have tried every imaginable remedy. Alcoholism, alcoholism, real alcoholic. Insanity, alcoholics, real. We're hopeless. It says it right here, self-diagnosis. It says it on the second page. It says, we do not like to pronounce any individual alcoholic, but you can quickly diagnose yourself. Well, after you come into Alcoholics Anonymous, and people will say, "Well, I don't go to big book studies. I don't get involved." You're sitting at an AA meeting, they read all the literature, how it works. They read more about alcoholism over and over and over again. The preamble. There is a solution. They read the traditions. You think you're not getting it? You're getting it. You don't think you're being programmed? Think again. You don't think you're being programmed? Think again. Diagnose yourself. After this, you're going to be, because, man, you better have a desire to do so. He made up his mind that until he made success in business, blah, 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 blah. Belief, belief. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. That's where that came from. Right here. Right here. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. Once an addict, always an addict. Not NA is just a spin-off of AA. It's the exact same, but a lot of uh, Narcotics Anonymous members go to AA, and some AA go to NA. It's all the same. All the anonymous meetings. They should have called this. I'm gonna. I. It should be called Thinking Anonymous. Yeah, it's all about our thinking. Whatever we want to believe. We have to conceive and believe to achieve. We must believe first to discover truth, to discover the real deal. We got to search. Then we come to a realization that it's knowledge, and I don't believe it, I know it. What I'm saying is, I know this is true. Okay? This is true. What I'm saying is true. Okay? You too will find out when you do your research and you stay in long enough, and eventually you'll find it to be true too. I mean, I'm not alone. You listen to all the other people doing podcasts, so it, it sounds like we are copying everybody, but it's not. We're not copying everybody. It's there. It's real. Well, it's just they believe it's true. Alcoholics, they believe it. Yes, they do believe it. They do believe it. I listened to a gentleman do a little TikTok thing, and he was talking about he didn't even this guy didn't even have his own research. He said Alcoholics Anonymous was 80 years old. He was saying that we don't do any research. He's telling the people in Alcoholics Anonymous, do your research because these AA bashers, they don't know what they're talking about. They just have resentments. Mister, I got well over 30 years of experience and I got a lifelong experience. My experience is my journey and my truth. Okay. That's my witness, my experience in life in being in Alcoholics Anonymous and deprogramming it. Okay. As I'm in the meetings, I'm deprogramming it. Yeah. And I was they could call me a bleeding deacon. People thought of me as an elder statesman because I had much time, but I never. I think I sponsored two people, and if I did sponsor them, I told them how to live their own lives, how to go through it quick and live their. I never tried to hit anybody with this big book heavy. I was lucky that the gentleman that brought me in, Lonnie, still a friend today, he didn't hit me over the head with a big book because he didn't even. I don't even think he bought into any of this real religious part of it. Not religious part of it. The whole thing's religious. There's no religious part. It's all religious. Desire to stay sober. Let's see. Let's get their own willpower. No. Helpless. Alcoholic. Alcoholic. Potential alcoholic. Real alcoholic. Our first example is a friend we shall call Jim. It's given examples of stories. Real alcoholic. Insanity. This one page, three times. Insanity. Insanely trivial. The insane idea won out. Insanely. It's mentioned four times. He had much knowledge about himself as an alcoholic. That's Jim. It goes on to, you may think our illustrations is too ridiculous. Alcoholism. Self knowledge avails us nothing. It gets crazier and crazier. That may be true of certain non alcoholics. Their brains and bodies have not been damaged as ours were. Absolute unable to stop drinking on the basis of self knowledge. Alcoholic, alcoholic, alcoholic. Over and over again. Insane, insanity. No knowledge or willpower. Alcoholism, alcoholic, alcoholic mind. Alcoholic mentality, hopeless condition. Alcoholism mind. Spiritual answers and program of action, which is hundreds has followed us. 100% hopeless apart from divine help. What you say about the general hopelessness of average alcoholic plot? Oh, this was young. This was Fred's story. The alcoholic at certain times has no effective mental defense against the first drink, except in a few rare cases. You must come to a higher power. It says you must. There's a lot of musts in Alcoholics Anonymous. I have one paper that says how many. There's plenty of musts. But that's just in this big book. Then when we go over to the step book was written 16 years later. Step one is a little more specific. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol because we're powerless because we're alcoholics, alcoholism, alcoholic, powerless. Then it gets into this in the step book. When you go to step meetings, This is what you're reading over and over again. I've been to many of them. And I told you, I hit a lot of them, highlight. Step one, the beginning of the break. This is what I wrote in the step book. Step one, the beginning of the breakdown of identity. When we admit and accept these steps, we are using our will to create. Yes, we are conforming. We are using our will to conform to the programming of Alcoholics Anonymous. We're consenting. We are responsible. We are allowing ourselves to be programmed. We are using our will to create a situation where a prediction becomes true because we expect it to happen. It can be positive or negative, and it's called a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah. I'm brainwashed, I'm indoctrinated. Yes, I conform to it, I do. But this subtle subliminal programming, we become victims to it. Yeah, I hate to say it, I don't like victimhood. I don't, but we become victims to this cult mentality of Alcoholics Anonymous. Oh, nobody makes you. You could go anytime you want. You can leave anytime. And then the thing is, it works if you work it. It works if you don't work it. Because I know people that stop drinking and stop drugging or whatever you want to call it, stop using any type of, without even working the steps and all that. It works if you don't even work it, if you want it, because they know the only requirement for membership is a desire and it's got to come from you. So it comes from our will, it comes from us. Mentalism, hermetic principles of mentalism, cause and effect through consequences, consequences of cause and effect. So here it gets heavy in the step book, okay, because you're talking about complete defeat. You're talking about surrender. Okay, they're getting you to step two, but they're not there yet. It's a process, remember. Complete defeat, personal powerlessness. Look up uh, providence, act of providence. Look it up. Act of providence. I wrote it down here somewhere. Act of providence. Um, Bankruptcy. No other kind of bankruptcy. Acceptance. You have to have acceptance of our bankruptcy. Personal powerlessness. Acceptance. Devastating weakness. Proved beyond doubt by an immense experience. This is one fact of AA. This is in the first page of the step book. Second page, admit complete defeat. Now it gets into 14 years later, but it starts to describe our sponsors. Who's our sponsors? Our sponsors are just human beings that are programmed into Alcoholics Anonymous to regurgitate all the principles of the program and all the steps, traditions, and everything else that they could absorb. And you have some that absorb more, some are more fanatical than others. Of course, I was not going to be a fanatic. That's one thing. Fanaticism is you know, Jesus fanatic, God fanatic, religious fanatic, AA fanatic. It's just crazy. Let me get this out of here. Crazy. Yeah, and then it goes on. Our sponsors, victim of a mental obsession so subtly powerful that no amount of human willpower can break it. Our sponsors, they're priests, they're AA priests. They're not. I mean, priests are more educated in the theology crap of God, but sponsors aren't. I mean, at least Smart Recovery, you have some education about cognitive behavioral therapy. You're studying. It might cost you $99, but then you got a book and you're still studying. So you're learning something at least. Here, you're being indoctrinated, programmed into obsession, into coming an agreement with the program. Our sponsors pointed out our increasing sensitivity to alcohol. An allergy, they called it. They called it. Dr. Silkworth just copied what he learned from the past. It's just a copying and repeating of it. Dr. Silkworth didn't come up with anything, the phenomena of craving and all that. He didn't invent that. He was doing a belladonna treatment. He told Bill, I can't help you. Go over to the Oxford group, will you? Doctor and Dr. Silkworth was such a great doctor, worked at Towns Hospital, pushing out belladonna treatments, fake statistics, sponsor. It was a statistical fact that alcoholics never recovered on their own resources. This is the what are we at? The second page? Last graspers, hopeless, low bottom cases, hopelessness. Now listen to this, fatal progression. It's growing in your body even when you're stopped. That's what I was told. I mean, God forbid I had like 30 something, I got, today I haven't had a drink in 41 years. Man, could you imagine if I take a drink, I'd explode. People say, well, why don't you drink today, Bobby? I choose not to because I had a habit. Maybe I could create another one. I don't know. I don't want to. Alcohol is poison anyhow. So I know it. It's a carcinogen. I don't drink alcohol. Would I don't need to be high. I don't need to be buzzed off of alcohol. I don't need to pay $8, $10 for a beer or whatever. I don't want to. It's not that I don't need to. I don't want to. I choose not to. I choose not to. You got some problems with that. You call it whatever you want. You call it, oh, Bobby's abstinent. No, I'm not. I'm abstinent of nothing. Okay. It's like, am I abstinent of whatever, some type of it's crazy. Alcoholism. It is a tremendous satisfaction to record that the following alcoholism, alcoholic, raise the bottom, habit. Oh, they mentioned habit. Drinking, even then, was no mere habit. I started drinking. I remember I started with a quart of keglet in Mickey's garage, man. I drank it. I poured some of it out because I was afraid. I didn't want to, I didn't know what it was going to do to me. So I like poured half of it out and faked like I drank the whole thing when I first drank it. I don't know what grade I was in, seventh. I don't know. Then, yeah, I started it and became a habit. Then it did become an addiction. I can get in, the definition of addiction, whatever. Became an addiction, and then I chose to decide that I didn't want to have this so-called habit again, and I stopped it. Yeah, just like millions of others. And I don't celebrating time and recovery. I'll get into that. I'll do another podcast on sobriety, sober, saying you're sober, you're in sobriety, you're in recovery. Bup, 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 bup. Sober. Look up the definition. Why in the hell would I go around saying I'm sober? I'd never even told any doctor ever, no, wrote never anything down. Back then I was smart enough because I had enough insight. I think I had enough awakening that I said, no, I'm not going to tell the authority that I'm alcoholic and have that on my record. Luckily, I never went to a rehab. People went to 5 rehabs, 6 rehabs, 3 sober living houses. And then they decided to change. So the bottom had to be risen. We're lucky we raised the bottom for others, but listen to this. The beginning of a fatal, it says it here, it says it right here. The beginning of a fatal progression in the mind when one when one alcoholic or one addict it plants in another the nature of their melody of this person peer to peer. That's the peer to peer bull crap. You get a guy, that's what the sponsors peer to peer. You get a guy that's got 5 days sober, he's sponsoring somebody with 1 day. A guy that, I don't care if he's got 10 years, he could be a smart, intelligent person, but he's passing on the indoctrination system. Pass on some knowledge. If you got some wisdom and knowledge, yeah, you could pass that on to a younger person if you're an older, you're an older person, just if they want some suggestions. But peer-to-peer sponsorship, it's just a toxic pyramid relationship in a religious, faith-based, dogmatic setting, church basement. That's why churches, what do you think church, they wouldn't let me start a meeting at any church. No, they wouldn't let me. They only let them start the meetings there because of God, and they know they're getting them to a religious conversion and possibly to their church and to join their congregation so they can give them money too. Not only AA's money with the Grapevine and all the other World Service Inc., two separate corporations, only from one planet into another, self centered in the extreme. We must hit bottom. Now, listen to this here, hit bottom, self centered. Discovered the fatal nature of our situation, willing to listen as the dying can be. We stand ready to do anything which will lift the merciless obsession. I have a problem with words. That's part of my dyslexic. So, and it talks about raising the bottom. Where does it say that at? That's crazy, man. It's the craziest part where it says it is tremendous satisfaction to record that in the following years, this changed. Alcoholics who still had their health, families, jobs, even two cars in the garage began to recognize their alcoholism. Even people that just drank, are they real alcoholic, moderate drinkers, or are they just, they got levels. Even them finally began to recognize as this trend grew, they were joined by, listen to this, they were joined by young people who were scarcely more than potential alcoholics. They were spared the last 10 to 15 years of literal hell the rest of us have gone through. Since step one requires an admission that our lives have become unmanageable, how can people such as these take these steps? It was obvious necessary to raise the bottom. Even young people, they weren't even potential alcoholics, even people that had the cars and good jobs and everything. I did the last podcast. It says you're an alcoholic even if you're not an alcoholic. You join Alcoholics Anonymous, young people. They got these young people's group. They're like 15, 16, 17, 18. They're in these yucca pie, I don't know, these young people's group. They go on conferences. It's big. AA is they get the parents, Al-Anon, you get the parents, you get the grandparents, you get your friends. They got Alateen, they get them indoctrinated. Then they got the Alcoholics Anonymous young people's groups, and then they got the older Alcoholics Anonymous. Then they got the split gay groups and this groups and pilots groups and lawyers groups, and it's like Scientology. They're all over the place, and you don't even know where they are, who they are. You will eventually if you tell them you may have a problem. They'll recruit you. They'll try to recruit you because we have recruiters all over. We have recruiters going to schools, going to jails, going to institutes, going to courts, going to rehabs, going to public service, public speakings. We have little divisions of Moonies that go out. I did a podcast on that, or if I didn't, I will. This is all true. I'm not making this stuff up. I'm not making it up. I get, it's sad. Sometimes before I came on this podcast, I was sitting by myself. I was like almost ready to cry thinking about the shit that I did and the ambivalence that I went through during all the years I was in. I was tearing. I'm not kidding you. This shit's painful to think that they're putting these people through this every day, especially these young people. Thankfully, I know that when these young people, I know many, I'm working with people. I'm not working with them. I'm helping people that that are finding purpose in life. They can't stand going to Alcoholics Anonymous. Their parents are coercing them to go. You got to go to AA. You got to go do this. You got to step because they don't believe them yet because they got to build in their confidence because they screwed up so many damn times, and it takes time, but they're finding purposes in exercising and hiking and biking and parasailing and traveling and young people are finding purpose in wood shop. And I know a gentleman that's just started a new YouTube channel that's he's excited. He's creating a new purpose in his life. That's what it is about. We don't need to, it's good to get help and have communities and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that. I'll, I'd love to start a group or something where we meet once in a while. Not that we need it, but it's good to have a place to go to once in a while. And then maybe not, because me personally, I like being alone. I don't have too many friends. I don't have that many friends. That's a choice. I mean, I like people. I have a lot of acquaintances and I'm very nice. And I love being around people and talking to people. I love it. I mean, true friends, you got to be have responsibility. It takes effort and work to have true friends, you know. Step one in the 12 and 12. And then, oh, I don't even want to get into this new one. This is even worse. The new plain language big book for the fifth grader like myself, fifth grader, because this book can be, they changed it so they changed the words, but this is even worse. There is a solution here. 68 times alcoholic and alcoholism is 68 times. I highlight. Look at this one page. Look at this one page. Can you see all look at alcoholic alcoholism. Just one page. That's the brainwashing, the mechanism of repetition, the mother of brainwashing. It's also the mother of skill. Over and over. Alcoholism, understanding types of drinking, alcohol, over and over the word. Look at it. I mean, look at it. I mean, it's just, I don't know if you can see it. Look, it's just over and over and over. I highlight all the word alcoholism and alcoholic. That's just those two words. Okay, over and over. When this here, they never mentioned Carl Jung or Roland. They took that out. Ebby, Roland, they never went to Alcoholics Anonymous. They're the ones that Bill took everything from them, the Oxford group, religion and medicine. He just made it his own thing. Rockefeller took it all and designed it and created it. Over and over. Vital spiritual experience. They need a huge emotional event to transform the alcoholic attitude. A vital spiritual experience. God as we understood him. Alcoholism, vital spiritual experience. It's no different. And then in same thing in chapter 3, more about alcoholism in this book here, the plain language big book. It goes on repeating the word alcoholic, alcoholism over and over and over and over and over again. Step one, that's step one. Chapter 2 and chapter 3. There is a solution and more about alcoholism. All it is to break us down, break us and hijack our identity and create a new identity, the alcoholic identity. I am an alcoholic. No, I'm not. Wasn't fully committed. Alcoholism, alcoholic. Holy crap. Over and over. Non-stop, pages after pages, the word alcoholic and addict. You could go over, read it. Many of the doctors and psychiatrists were spoken to agree with our conclusion. Alcoholic, addict, over and over and over and over. And then it gets to where it says then it gets to where it says at the end, many of the doctors and psychiatrists were spoken to agree with our conclusion. They know that we cannot stop ourselves from drinking and that no will. This is one doc. This is two doctors. Okay. That no willpower is never enough. One of these doctors, a staff member at the world renowned hospital, made this statement to AA founders. Dr. Silkworth. I mean, in the beginning of this, it has the doctor's opinion. What you say about the hopelessness of the average alcoholic is correct, in my opinion. I have heard the stories of two or your founding members. I have no doubt that they would have been 100% hopeless if they had not connected to a higher power. If they had come to my hospital for treatment of detox, wouldn't have given them as patient. I wouldn't have taken them as patients. Ugh, the proselytizing, the conversion, the converting us, the religious conversion, the identity theft of Alcoholics Anonymous. What more can I say about Alcoholics Anonymous? That it is a religion and it's Rockefeller's temperance movement religion. Take care, everybody. Peace out. Oh, what is that? Share. Where's the. I gotta find. There it is here. Sorry about that. I'm a knucklehead.